Alrighty boys and girls, here's what my gasogen looks like after 1109 hours of operation on this old engine here. It has finally decided to pop an oil seal. You can see there's quite a lot of oil leakage all over the place. It's made a heck of a mess here, and I'm thinking, well, it's perhaps time to retire this engine. Here's what the sparkleberry looks like after 1100 hours. It's actually surprisingly clean. So it looks like I've got my system working fairly well. This is actually second hand, so it wasn't even new when I put the engine in here. So perhaps it would look even more betterer if I put a new one in when I started this. What I think has happened is that the oil seal from this end of the crankshaft has come off, and the oil has been hitting the flywheel and flinging off in absolutely every direction. There's that a bit of hair stuck on there? Not anymore. Anyway, I think the oil has been coming out there and going all over the engine. That would explain the mess at this end of the engine. There's a lot of rubbish all around it. So perhaps the next step in the process is to hack all that off there, lovingly of course, and start getting ready to put the new generator in its place. Ah, the Woodgas bug will be pleased. There's the grunter that I've taken out, along with the alternator and three-phase rectificator. So these awkward parts will no longer be a part of this build. With a little bit of help from a couple of little angle grinders, little 9-inch one there, little 5-inch one there, I've gone and taken out all of the mounts. The only ones that remain are the 4 pickup points for the base of the engine. At this end I'll need to make up some sort of mount to receive the back end of the alternator on this generator. So I need to make something up to receive this end of things. Hard to spot. But anyway, the majority of the hard work is done. The next thing now will be to take this shiny new generator to bits and pieces, and then start trying to figure out how to graft his innards, his gizzards, onto the Matix 9000. I think this is going to take me a day or two to get done, but that's fine. As long as the weather holds out. This is winter and something's gone horribly wrong. The sun is shining, but not aimed at the sun. Anyway, the sun is shining and it's a weekend, which is kind of contradictory when you think about it. Alrighty boys and girls, back into it. Yippee! Okie dokie. Finally got the shiny new one, or I think this is the new one, could be that one, no, I think it's this one, out of its frame. It was a bit of a struggle, but it finally gave up. One of the problems I need to fix is that this one doesn't have a starter motor. It has the pull cord, but no starter motor like the old one used to, or still does. Got me a nice shiny starter motor here, but it looks like I'll have to import some holes. We'll just hit this really hard till it goes in, as well, I'm full of arthritis and it's kind of hard to move, and pulling that there rope doesn't always work for me. So I figure that there starter motor will make life a little bit easier. The next thing now perhaps the final thing for the evening as the sun is going down, is to chuck this little silver behemoth into here. If all goes well, it should just drop right on in. I'm hoping that there will be enough room. There's the alternator on that thing. It's kind of long. It could hit this. It could go through here. If so, I'll just have to live with it. So that's the next little old thing. That's probably the last little thing for the day, I think. At long last, the new grunter is mounted up on the frame. It almost fitted. The footprint for the engine bolt down points is the same, so no worries there. I need to add some mounts for the alternator as expected, that's fine. But the problem started with the end cap that occupies this place here, and this regulator. It hits the metal frame that supports the controller panel for the gasifier. Now just a note on regulators. If you buy one of these generators, I'd strongly recommend that you take the regulator out. Normally it's bolted into the back here of the alternator. But the vibrations, after a few hundred hours of operation, will destroy the regulator. I've had a couple of generators over the centuries die that way, where the engine's running, but there's no electricity coming out. Or maybe 70 volts at about. No amps. It turns out that the regulator has been shaken apart. Even though it's sealed up inside with this potting stuff, it basically dies. So I'm going to take advantage of this disadvantage. I'm going to pull this regulator out of here and set it up somewhere else nearby on a soft mount, then wire it back into here. It goes to the brushes and back to some of the field coils where it monitors the voltage and sets up a regulation loop. So that should be a fairly simple matter. I'm quite happy with today's progress. I'm pretty well obliged to stop just now because when the sun goes down it gets dark as around here, and that's when the wood gas bugs start coming out. So yeah, I've got a fair few bite marks on me from wood gas bugs, and I can really do without having any more. Okay, I've got this about as finished as I can get it, as I'm running out of time, so I've taken a few shortcuts. Here's the starter cable for the starter motor, just tied up for now and insulated with some hose pipe. The 230 volts outlet, just kind of bodge it into place, and the wiring is duly bodgified as well. I'm just doing the preheat at the moment with these the two of those blowers. Let's see if we can look inside the burner. Oh, she's pretty hot down there. Feel my camera melting. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a lovely blue flame, and that's unfiltered. So once that's run on for a little bit, and the gasifier started to heat up, I can then activate the purge blower, this one here, to cool the gas through the cooling tower and these filters around the cyclones and down to the engine. So the gas will be right there by the time the purge blower is finished pulling it through the filters. So if I get it right, and I don't always, but I can often on the first pull of the starter rope have my little grunter going. The moment of truth is coming, because when I start the grunter, if I've made a mistake with the wiring, smoke might happen. Well, okay, smoke's normal for these, but the wrong kind of smoke. Oh well, I'll get back to you a little bit later, once the heat up process is done. The preheat is done. The first two blowers that start the gasifier up. Now I've got the purge blower going. Its purpose will be to pull all the air out of the plumbing so as I get fresh gas available to be burned. At the moment my flare port for the filtered gas is pretty rudimentary. It's not as well developed as my pre-start flare with the spark plug and all that in it. But that's going to have its own electronic sparker, and I figured that's going to sing Auld Lang Syne when it's sparking instead of when the saints go marching in. Hey, maybe even I could set it up so this machine takes requests and sings your favourite song for you. Anyway, hopefully I'll get me a flare at the port. There's just no way it's going to be visible though. Even in darkness I can never see this thing very well. No, I think it's going to be a while. One thing with this, it takes about a month for the gas to get here. So I don't know if I've got enough video tape left on my memory card to record that. So I'll get back to y'all when this is further along in the process. Okay, I've got the filtered flare lit. Yes, there really is a flame in there, honest. It's a very small one. I think the filters are a little bit choked up or the flow isn't very good. But it'll be enough to fire the engine. I really don't know if the camera can even see that. But it's a lovely blue flame in there. In my experience, engines like blue flames. Alright, next step is to see whether I can get this thing started. You can see the heat plumes coming out of there, I think. Okay, bear with me while I take this through its paces and have a go at yanking on that there rope. I'm ready to have a go at starting the grunter. This will be my first run on Woodgas in this configuration. Made the right noises. Got to get my mixture right. Obviously I haven't. Make it a bit richer. Okay, I got it going. It's making a hell of a lot of noise. It turns out that there are leaks around the cylinder head in the inlet and outlet side of things. So the engine is sucking air and blowing exhaust in places where it shouldn't. Which would explain why it's hard to start. I've got a 500 watt light plugged into it right now. But because of the leaks around the engine, I can't get much more than about 5, maybe 600 watts. So it needs a bit more tender loving care. But I'll get there. At least it works. I'm getting electricity out of it right now. One big problem I've got though is I don't have a battery charging system on this. So the battery will go down. Oops. Looks like I need to adjust something here. There we go. Never did get round to making that automatic. Maybe one of these days. So perhaps before it gets too dark, I'll pop the parts off the cylinder head and see if I can do some friction. That's assuming Mr. Camel over there doesn't mind waiting for his dinner. Well, that's my electricity supply back online again, such as it is. Alrighty, the engine settled down to a reasonable rhythm. Got enough fuel to last a few minutes, and is making power to run this. It's strong enough to run them both. Takes 1500 watts to run both of these. It's working fairly well, but I need to tweak it to make it run better. When I snip the exhaust, can't smell anything there at all. There's plenty of moisture coming out though. Naturally some of that moisture is in the exhaust and some of it is in the fuel that's in that dryer. It makes a good job of drying that fuel. If you haven't built one of those fuel dryers yet, I strongly recommend you give it a try. See how far I can get away before the sound dies. I reckon 3 miles will be about right. That's my only complaint about this arrangement at the moment. For some reason, the new engine appears to be making a lot more noise. Okay, the exhaust system leaks, but there must be some other mechanical issue that I haven't thought about. I like a quiet engine, and this definitely ain't quiet, so I'm thinking I might stick some Woodgas bugs in my ears. Talking of which, I haven't seen the Woodgas bug all day. But I do have bite marks on my neck. Yeah, I don't know what caused that. Could have been one of those camels. Yeah, could have been. But probably not. Okay fellas, it's getting dark, getting cold, and dark and cold. There's not much light and the temperature's low. So I'll have to quit the video thing for now and put all my shiny toys away for the night. Cheers fellas! I turn my back for 1 minute, having taken the gasifier out of here, and the shed starts filling up with ponies. Winnie. I think she might be on the trail of the Woodgas bug. Don't knock that over, sweetie. It'll cause a serious fuel spill. Winnie, Winnie. Winnie, Winnie. Oh, she's lost the trail of the Woodgas bug. For a moment there I thought she might be able to find the Woodgas bug. I reckon I could win me a Nobel Woodgas prize for catching the Woodgas bug. I was going to fit this new starter motor today, so I took the engine covers off to expose the flywheel. And wouldn't you know it, like me, the flywheel is completely toothless. I had hoped all I had to do was make a hole right here with the starter motor, mount it as on place, and then simply engage it with the tooths. That's not going to happen. I am hoping that I can take the flywheel off the old grunter and simply attach that. So remove that cover like I've done with the other engine, take off the flywheel and fit him in place of the one that's mounted on this engine. So it'll be a flywheel swap. While I'm at it, I also need to fix up the leak in the muffulator. I've got some hot melt glue sticks here. I should be able to just hot melt the muffler parts together. So that ought to do. These melt at quite a low temperature, about 2000 degrees Celsius, so I should be just fine with that. Let's hope I don't burn my fingers on it, huh? So, new set of challenges for the day. Well, I'm not going to be beaten. Ain't nothing beats me, except maybe being hit by a Big Mac truck full of Big Macs. Big Macs, yum. Okay, I got the flywheel off. Naturally it put up a hell of a fight because there was nothing to actually use a gear puller on. I ended up pushing it with a little hammer rod through here from behind, rotate, push, and it finally gave up. So here's the flywheel. You'll see that, like me, it lacks teeth. I've taken the flywheel off the old end gun, and it's similar in every way except this one has magnets in it, or at least one, for charging the starter battery, whereas this one doesn't, but that doesn't matter. But this one's got tooths, and I'm hoping that they will engage with this starter motor and that this will actually fit on there. Now, since I've taken the flywheel off the old end gun, let's take a look at him. There's a little bit of dirt on it, not much, actually quite a lot. And guess what? Here's the culprit. It's the oil seal from the crankshaft bearing. It has come off. I don't really know what's meant to hold them on, but I suspect that when I rebuild this engine, I might be inclined to make a retainer, attach it to these bolts and have it so it sort of holds that in for me. It seems to me that pressure in the engine's crankcase, which may result from a worn piston cylinder perhaps, has popped that out, or it's just old. I don't really know. But hopefully I can use this part of the engine to guide me as to how to put the starter motor in on the new one. It has these holes, it seems, to receive the starter motor, but it doesn't have that hole to receive the body of the starter motor, and of course it didn't have the toothed flywheel. So I'd like to think that I can simply retrofit those bits and all pieces to achieve starting. I wouldn't normally bother, but I have the gift, so to speak, of arthritis, which regularly cripples me up to the point where I can't actually move well. So pushing a starter button would be much more betterer than pulling a starter rope. Well, luckily for me, absolutely nothing fitted. Had to grind, very gently grind the snot out of this port here with this and some power tools to fit my starter motor. So when I push the button, for some reason though, it's not turning the engine. Don't know why. Oh yeah, flywheel. Did you know that aeroplanes have flywheels? Without them they couldn't land or take off. Alright, starter motor install is complete now. I should be able to give it a rotate. Power on, starter motor start. Okay, that bit works too, the part that makes all the noise goes. So, that's one fairly sizable hurdle dealt with. Next, please. Finally, I managed to get this beast under control. Last weekend when I rebuilt all of this, I didn't have a starter motor on it, but I do now. And the muffler system was leaking like a booger. It was making a hell of a lot of noise. Plus also there was a leak on the other side where the gas and air enters the engine. I managed to fix that without too much fuss. Hot melt glued the muffler metalwork together and ran the engine briefly on dinosaur squeezings. The difference in noise output was incredible. The starter motor took me quite some long time to fit up, as this engine, which was a pull start type from manufacture, didn't have teeth on the flywheel. So I had to pop that flywheel off, and that was a big fight in its own right. Finally got that off, replaced it with the flywheel from the broken engine, and also had to carve out the metal work to receive the starter motor. Naturally, of course, absolutely nothing fitted, nothing worked, and I had to file the snot out of it to get the job done. But it's all been worth it. The starter motor on this works like a charm. Flywheel works nicely with it. The engine runs so much quieter thanks to all the hot melt glue that I added to the plumbing. And this is pretty much ready to fire up. Now, because of all the wind and the sunshine that I'm getting today, this machine will not be required this evening, but it won't be too long before I've got to kick it in the guts and make electricities come out. One thing I'll need to do though is manufacture a whole bunch of more fuel, as I've got enough for about 5 hours all up, maybe an hour or two in there an hour in that bucket, an hour in the dryer, an hour and a bit in that bucket, and another hour's worth there. So what's that, about 5-ish, roundabout hours of engine run time before I have to go to the expense of chopping up some more fuel fingers to make more gasoline granules. Oh, us wood gas victims never seem to get a fair break. Alright fellas, so far, yep, everything's gone pretty well as I can get it to go, and I now have a machine that's ready for at least 1,000 more hours of service. Yay! Wood gas bugs unite. Cheers fellas. Hey sweetie. Well, there's a typical winter's night at home. Over there, my wood gas generator is making electricities and light, feeding the house and one of the fuel processors. You can actually hear it crunching away over there. Got my guard pony here, protecting me from carrots. There you go. And in here, my partly built, not yet finished, garden shed with its LED lighting strips. I'm about to use an electricity jigsaw to cut up some of these power pellets. I want to clear this out of here so as I can put a workbench up against the back wall so I can work on engines and stuff. Got to get rid of this junk out of here too. Got me some roofing iron and leftovers and scraps and bits and all pieces. They all have to go to make me some room in here. Let's go and have a look at the Wood Goblin 9000, huh? Did a lot of work on it last weekend, fixing the muffler, so it's a lot quieter now. Here's the new grunter. Delivering 1,000 odd watts of power to the battery. It's also powering this too, manufacturing fuel. I don't know if you can hear my voice over all this noise. So this activity represents a typical night running electricity from the wood gas system, running the fuel processor, and messing around in my garden shed, while also making sure the guard ponies have got carrots enough to live on. Oh, what a great life this is. No power bills, yay! About 10 hours on the new engine so far. It runs very well, but it's really hard to start for some reason. No smell in the exhaust for some reason. It's running so cleanly I can't smell it. That fuel dryer does a good job